Hello and good morning. My name is Muhammad Nazmi bin Rosli, and this is our group member. So here, today we will present about the induction motor. I am present about a direct online motor starter for the induction motor. So what we can see here is the introduction about the starter motor is the most straightforward type of motor starter for the induction motor is a direct online starter. The direct online motor starter comprise a MCCB or circuit breaker contactor and an overburden transfer to assurance. Electromagnetic contactor which can be opened by the warm overburden transfer under shortcoming condition. Ordinarily, the contactor with the constraint by discrete start and stop button and an assistant contact on the contactor is utilized across the start button as a whole in contact. So we can see at the next slide is a three-phase supply motor starter. So next is a basic circuit and its associate. So we can see the three-phase direct online motor and the single-phase direct online starter here. So what we can see is the requirement for the three-phase motor is a three-phase induction motor, 3-coil electric cable, 3-phase 4-wire system supply, a circuit breaker, a contactor or starter, an overload relay, and flexible wiring cable for controlling wiring. Normal close push button, and the last is normal open push button. Alright, so we move to the characteristic of direct online motor starter, which is available starting current at 100%, peak starting current 6 to 8 full load current, and the third is peak starting torque 100%. So for the available starting current, to begin, the contactor is closed, applying full line voltage to the motor winding. The motor will draw an extremely high inrush current for an exceptionally brief time frame. The attractive field in the iron, and afterward the current will be restricted to the lock rotor of current of the motor. The motor will create a lock rotor torque and start to quicken toward maximum throttle. That's all for available starting current 100%. So at the peak starting current 6 to 8 full load current, as the motor accelerates, the current will start to drop. However, will not drop essentially until the motor is at a rapid, regularly about 85% of coordinated speed. The real starting current band is an element of the motor design and the terminal voltage, and is absolutely independent of the motor load. The motor burden will influence the time taken for the motor to quicken to max throttle, and consequently the length of the high starting current, yet not the size of the starting current. So the next is peak starting torque. Given the torque developed by the motor surpass the load torque at all rate during the beginning cycle, the motor will arrive at max throttle on the off chance that the torque conveyed by the motor is not exactly the torque of the load at any speed during the beginning cycle. The motor will quick accelerate, and then the starting time is reliant on the accelerated torque and the load latency. So the next is principle of operation. So the main of the starter is relay coil. It will get one phase constant in a short. It will get one phase constant from incoming supply voltage A1. When coil gets second phase, relay coil energized and magnet of contactor produce electromagnetic field. And since of this, plugger of contactor will move and main contactor of starter will be closed, and auxiliary will change its position. NO become NC and NC become. In the photo we can see at there in the circuit. So next is a start and stop button. Door starter wiring reference to start and stop button between the main supply terminal and motor terminal. The door starter main terminal are connected, and with the two terminal of the three-phase motor power supply, the negative feedback circuit is energized. Current will flow through one phase to the negative feedback circuit, and therefore the contactor coil to the opposite phase when the beginning button is pressed. Contactor coil get energized thanks to this current that create to shut the contact of the contactor, and will the result in the three-phase supply is connected to the motor. So in a short, and now we'll move to the heating effect. The heating effect of the load current thermal of load protection relay operate because the heating effect is directly proportional to load current. More the load current, more is that the heating effect. So the next is remotely operate door starter. This remote is also used for controlling the switching of the motor from any desired place. The next is application of direct online motor starter. The first is the low power rating. The door starter are used for motor that's having a low power rating. The next is the starting current does not damage the winding of the motor because it has a overload and overcurrent protection. And the last is direct online starter are used for little water pump, conveyor belts, fans, and compressor. It is because it has a thermal overload relay, magnetic overload relay, electronic overload relay. So the next is advantage of the starter motor. The advantage is more comfortable, simple to work and control. The starter is very cheap and economical. It is very easy to troubleshoot and simply understandable. The next is direct online starter provide into 100 torque at starting. The size of door is so compact because it requires a less space occupied. And the last is the disadvantage. The disadvantage of direct online starter is the current of starting motor does not reduce after being started. Direct online starter has very high starting torque, high starting current, and or an excessive amount of current, 6 to 8 times of full load current. Due to the large thermal stress on the motor, the lifespan of the machine reduced, and the mechanical stress on the mechanical system is increased due to unnecessary high starting torque, even when not required by the law, and this is often very dangerous for machine life. And the last is there is a big dip in voltage within the electrical installation thanks to the excessive amount of inrush current, and due to this other customer connected to an equivalent line effect. Hence, this is often suitable just for small motor. That's all from me. We will move to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wan Muhammad Arif bin Wan Kamaluddin. Matric number AA191965. Okay, for this video, I will present about stepper motor. Okay, first for introduction, a stepper motor is an electrical device that converts electric energy into mechanical energy when electric command pulses are applied to it in the proper sequence. The shaft or spindle of a stepper motor rotates in discrete step increments. The rotation of the motors has several direct connections to this applied input pulse. The sequence of the pulse applied is closely related to the rotation direction of the motor shaft. The speed of rotation of the motor shaft is directly related to the frequency of the input pulse, and the number of input pulse applied is directly related to the length of rotation. Next is characteristics of stepper motor. Okay, first is power HP range. There is no power rating since stepper motor do not necessarily rotate continuously. They do not even approach a sub-fractional horsepower rated capability if it rotates continuously. Stepper motor is a low power motor compared to other motor. Okay, second is starting current. For starting current, a rated voltage and maximum current for typical motor like NEMA 17 is 2.8 volts and 1.68 amps. Stepper motor will draw more current and can make the stepper motor hot if given higher voltage than it rated. But the stepper motor driver will not allow that to happen and use high frequency pulse to limit the average current to desire the maximum value. The safety will be danger for us because the stepper motor temperature will increase until hot, and but it will get the higher performance by increasing current and voltage. Okay, next is top speed characteristic. Stepper motor have one weakness, that is the stepper motor limit torque abilities at high speeds, since the stepper motor torque will fall with rising speed above the cut-off speed. The rise and fall times of the current through the motor windings occupy a significant fraction of each step when the motor is operating below its cut-off speed, and the step duration is comparable to the sum of the rise and fall times while at the cut-off speed. Okay, next is principle of operation of stepper motor. Okay, stepper motor have a stationary part, that is the stator, and moving part, that is the rotor. There are teeth on which coils are wired on the stator, while the rotor is either a variable reluctance iron core of the permanent magnet. Okay, next, the basic working principle of stepper motor is a magnetic field is generated by the current flowing in the coil, and rotor align with this field by energizing one or more of the stator phases. The rotor can be rotated by specific amount to reach the desired final position by supplying different phases in sequence. Stepper motor have three types of rotors. First is permanent magnet rotors, second is variable reluctance rotors, and then the third one is hybrid rotors. Okay, next is application of stepper motor. Okay, first, stepper motor is used in industrial machine, that is in automotive coach and machine tooling automated production equipment. And second, it also used in a medical device like medical scanners, sampler, and blood analysis machinery. Next is consumer electric. Stepper motor used in camera for automatic zoom functions and digital focus camera, and then it's also used in scientific instrument like spectrograph and observatory telescope positioning. Next is the stepper motor is used in office equipment like PC based scanning equipment, data storage, tape drive, printers, and scanners. And then stepper motor is also used in gaming industry like in the motors of the power slot machines, card shuffler, and wheel spinners. Okay, next is advantages and disadvantages of stepper motor. Okay, for advantages, first, the motor's rotation angle is proportional to the input pulse. Second, at the standstill, the motor has a full torque if the windings are energized. Number 3 is precise positioning and movement repeatability, as good stepper motors have an accuracy of 3 to 5% of a step, and this error is not cumulative from one step to the next step. Number 4 is excellent response to start, stop, and reverse. Okay, number 5 is it is reliable when there are no contact brushes in the motor. The life of the motor is also simply dependent on the life of the bearing. Number 6 is open loop control is provided by the motors responding to digital input pulses, making the motor simpler and less costly to control. 7. With a load that is directly coupled to the shaft, very low speed synchronous rotation can be achieved. Okay, number 8 is as a speed is proportional to the frequency of the input pulses, a wide range of rotational speeds can be realized. For disadvantages, first is resonance can occur if the stepper motor not properly controlled. And second is stepper motor is not easy to operate at extremely high speeds.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Hamzah Syami bin Anwar Zaki. For the group assignment, I got a topic about a servo motor. What is a servo motor? A servo motor is a rotary actuator or motor that allows for a precise control in terms of angular position, acceleration and velocity, and also capabilities that a regular motor does not have. It makes use of a regular motor and pairs it with a sensor for position feedback. The controller is the most sophisticated part of the servo motor, as it is specifically designed for the purpose. For structure of servo motor, the servo motor has a rotation director or encoder mount on the back shaft side of the motor to detect the position and speed of the rotor. This enables high resolution, high response positioning operation. Okay, for the main parts in construction of servo motor, first stator. From the position of the rotor, a rotating magnetic field is created to eventually generate torque. Second winding, third bearing, shaft, rotor, encoder and encoder cable, and last is motor cable. For the characteristic of servo motor is servo motor are able to operate at a wide range of speed, both high and low, without overheating, and to maintain sufficient torque at zero speed to hold a load in place. They can also maintain a constant velocity despite change in the amount of torque acting on the system. Torque control is also possible with a servo motor, and servo are often defined by their speed torque curve, which indicate the motor speed peak and continuous torque values. Peak torque is the maximum torque the motor can generate for a short amount of time, while continuous torque can be produced indefinitely. If a servo motor is operated above its continuous torque rating for a significant amount of time, excess heat is generated, which will damage the motor circuitry. Operating a servo motor above its peak torque can demagnetize the magnets. The servo motor have their own characteristics like other types of motor, which are voltage, current, operating speed, torque, control path, resolution, and path and weight. Okay. For the type of servo motor, servo motors can be of different type on their basis of their application. The most important amongst them are AC servo motor, DC servo motor, brushless DC servo motor, positional rotation servo motor, continuous rotation servo motor, and linear servo motor. A typically servo motor comprises of three wires, namely power, control, and ground. The shape and size of this motor depend on their application. For the principle of operating in servo motor, the servo motor control position and speed very precisely. Now a potential meter can sense the mechanical position of the shaft, hence it couples with the motor shaft through gears. The current position of the shaft is converted into electrical signal by potentiometer and is compared with the common input signal. In modern servo motor, electronic encoders or sensors sense the position of the shaft. We give common input according to the position of shaft. If the feedback signal differs from the given input, an error signal alerts the user. We amplify this error signal and apply as the input to the motor, hence the motor rotates. And when the shaft reaches to the required position, error signal becomes zero and hence the motor stands still holding the position. The common input is in from the electrical pulse, as the actual input to the motor is different between feedback signal or current position and required signal. Hence, speed of the motor is proportional to the difference between the current position and required position. The amount of the power required by the motor is proportional to the system it needs to travel. Okay. For the servo motor have 7 application. First, in industry, they are used in a machine, tools, packaging, factory automation, material handling, printing, converting, assembly line, and many other demanding application, robotic, CNC machinery, or automatic manufacturing. Second, they are also used in a radio controller airplane to control the positioning and movement of elevators. Third, they are used in robots because of their smooth switching on and off and accurate positioning. Fourth, they are also used by the aerospace industry to maintain hydraulic fluid in their hydraulic system. Next, they are used in many radio control toys, and they are used in electronic devices such as DVD or Blu-ray disc player to extend or replay the disc trays. And the last, they are also being used in automobiles to maintain the speeds of vehicles. Okay, for the advantage of servo motor, first, high output power relative to motor size and weight. Second, encoder determine accuracy and resolution. Third, high efficiency. It can approach 90% at light loads. And next, high torque to inertia ratio. Servo motor can rapidly accelerate loads. Next, has two until 3 times more continuous power for short periods, and has 5 to 10 times more rate torque for short periods. Next, servo motor achieve high speed at high torque values and quick at high speed. Okay. For the disadvantage of servo motor, first, servo motor require tuning to stabilize the feedback loop. Second, servo motor will become unpredictable when something breaks, so safety circuits are required. And last, complex control require encoder and electronic support. And the last, gearbox are often required to deliver power at higher speeds. Okay, thank you. That's all from me.